Okay, everyone, let's get started. Please turn off your mobile phones or put them on silent. Today I'm going to give you a short introduction to the history of shopping, a topic we're all familiar with. Almost every one of us experiences shopping every week. Some of us hate it, others love it. But shopping is a fact of life. In this lecture, I'll deal with two main themes: how shopping has changed over the years, and how history has affected the way women and men do their shopping. Okay, we'll start with a short history of how shopping has changed over the years. In ancient times, there was no money. Instead, people obtained goods by trading or bartering. Bartering had some disadvantages because people did not always need or want the goods that were being offered. For example, say you have a cow and you can trade milk, and you need some cloth. If no one has cloth to offer as a trade this week, you may have to trade for something you really don't need as much. I'm not going to cover the introduction of money in detail, but I'll just say that money was first introduced about 9000 BC, and it became more common in about 500 BC. Once this happened, markets opened, choice increased, and buying and selling became common. Now, in the past 100 years, shopping has been through three main phases. In the first phase, in the early 20th century, shops were usually specialised. For example, the butcher sold meat, the baker sold bread, and the grocer sold vegetables and fruit. We still can see this type of shopping activity today. Specialising is still a popular form of selling goods. There were also general stores where a variety of goods were sold, but in those days, the way that customers received their goods was different. Customers would tell the shopkeeper what they wanted, and he or she would collect and weigh the goods and hand them to the customer. Delivering to people's homes was also common. A second phase began in the mid-1920s, when larger stores began to open. These were called supermarkets and were self-serve. In supermarkets, customers pick the goods, which are mostly pre-packaged so that customers don't have to weigh the goods. Another major change in the second phase has been the introduction of credit cards. At the beginning of the 20th century, some shops offered charge accounts to their regular customers, but most people paid cash for most goods. It wasn't until 1950 that the first credit card was introduced. It was called the Diners Club card. At first, it wasn't popular with merchants because customers had to pay a 7% purchase fee. But it was gradually accepted by both buyers and sellers. In 1958, American Express also introduced a card, and the idea continued to spread. Credit card shopping is now a multi-million-dollar business, and it has offered security and convenience to shoppers and merchants. However, it has also increased the amount of personal debt. This can have serious financial implications and result in bankruptcy for individuals. The third phase really started in the 21st century. There are three main aspects here. Firstly, the megastores, where people can buy nearly everything from furniture to alcohol, electronics to groceries. Another change is in packaging and unpacking and paying. While checkout personnel did these tasks in the past, in recent years, self-checkout facilities allow customers to pack and pay themselves. A third innovation is online shopping. In some ways, online shopping is similar to the early experience of shopping. The customer selects the goods, often from a specialised online shop, while the seller picks and packs the product, which is then delivered to the buyer's home. Of course, selecting goods from all over the world is now possible, as is paying electronically. In some cases, however, people still prefer seeing and selecting the goods themselves. Now I'd like to turn to the other main topic of today's lecture, the differences between shopping behaviour of men and women. A common perception is that women get more enjoyment out of shopping. Is that correct? Well, according to two researchers, Kruger and Biker, the shopping behaviour of men and women has its origins in prehistory. When we say prehistory, we mean very early times in history, before written records. In those times, women were responsible for gathering food or foraging, while men hunted. Women developed good memories for food locations, for seasonal variations in availability, and for assessing food. Also, gathering food was a social activity, and it was regular and frequent. In contrast, hunting was intensive and not as frequent as food gathering. Although men would hunt in groups, hunting required silence and brief communication. What influence has this had on shopping behaviours? Well, Kruger and Biker argue that this is because shopping is similar to ancient gathering activities. In their study, the women that they tested enjoyed the social nature of shopping and were good at finding and remembering objects they wanted to buy. Also, they saw shopping as a frequent activity. Men, on the other hand, prefer shopping for one larger object. Example, an expensive TV. This activity is more like hunting in that men would go to one unfamiliar place and get one major object. Also, the traditional view is that women are responsible for the home and for the family. Since food is essential for the family, women have generally had responsibility for food shopping. Even in modern times, women are shown in advertisements as responsible for family eating pleasure and for their family's healthy eating. Advertisements also imply that women serve food out of love. For example, there was the ad in which the mother is serving sandwiches to her happy children, and the song playing in the background, "Good on you, Mum," Tip Top's the one, "Good on you, Mum." As you may know, Tip Top is a brand of bread. However, things are changing. Increasingly, men and women share responsibilities for grocery shopping. In fact, one study by Delakia in 2012 found that men do 45% of household grocery shopping, and that men are taking responsibility for shopping much more in younger households. This same study also found, however, that purchasing clothes is still an activity that women enjoy. Okay, we'll be covering all this in much greater detail in next week's lecture, when we'll look at the research covering motivations for shopping. Make sure you read the chapters in the textbook. Now, are there any questions? Yes, Sammy.